Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're gonna talk about new upcoming lenses. So basically the lenses that are coming down the pike and basically you're gonna experience them in 2020. So let's first thing first, lens matters more than a camera because let's say you have a basic camera like basic bitch stuff, but you have a good lens, you're gonna get good enough result. But if you have poo-poo lens and you have awesome, the most spectacular, let's say NASA grade sensor, here's the deal, you're still gonna get poop because lens is like, that's the thing between your subject and your sensor. So lens control affects so much more than just what people think of it. Like that's the point, that's the limiting factor, choke point if you will. So lens limits your view. Basically if you have a telephoto lens, you can't get a wide angle lens same way. So you have to think very thoroughly and very hard, like okay, what I'm gonna do, like what do I need, does this lens fulfill my needs? That's the first thing. Sit down and figure out what the heck you need and right tool for the right job, because there are so many lenses and like you would be surprised like why the heck Canon has 100 lenses, why the heck Nikon has 100 lenses, why has Fuji 70 lenses, and so on and so forth. Why the heck there is? Because there is a right tool for right job. For example, let's say APS-C system, there is a lens in APS-C world that can take you from 18mm to 400mm. You're like, whoa, that's whoa, yeah, it's good, it's awesome, it's very practical. But for whom? It's very practical for people who want to have a cheap DSLR, they want to enjoy the DSLR experience, or even a mirrorless nowadays. They want to enjoy that experience, plus they want to have the reach of a mega zoom camera. Awesome, for them it's awesome. But let's say for some other scenario where let's say you want to make a streaming setup, you want to use a, let's say Sony A6100 generally would be the best, and you want to use that, but you want a APS-C lens because again it's a fixed camera, you're gonna have it fixed in one place, you don't need zoom lens. You may want to go into like let's say 18mm or even 16mm f1.8. Why? Again, both of them will cost the same, both of them are made for APS-C, but they will suit different people. So right tool for the right job. I can guarantee you all of these lenses, they will have one buyer that's like, dude, this is made for me. That's the whole point. And over time you will realize this the hard way, is that camera bodies are the cheap part, because right now every Tom Dick and Harry is like, whoa, Canon RP price is so low, oh whoa, Sony A7 Mark III, it shook the world, like what it was offering in $2,000 back in that day. But camera bodies, they are a very small part of the equation. Like once you start buying lenses, and I don't mean like 20-30 lenses, I'm talking barely 3-4, you'll realize, bro, the camera body is now interchangeable. And people who do wildlife photography, people who do professional sports photography, they're like, bro, if my body breaks, I don't even care. Like they may have a spare body directly into their camera bag, but if lens breaks, yeah, they did. So that's the whole reality of it. Camera starts to look the cheap part, and third-party lenses are becoming very good nowadays. In early years, as in like early 2005 to 2000, basically 10-ish, there was a lot of issue. And even after that, let's say some Sigma lenses had some serious issue with autofocus. Why? Because Nikon and Canon, two giants, they locked their mount. Basically, they were not sharing. Okay, this is the universal code of how the heck we talk to our lenses. So there is a microchip on both ends, basically on your lens and your camera body. They talk to each other. Now what Sigma and Tamron they try to do is basically they try to tap into it and reverse engineer it. Now first generation was okay, it could do something. Second, it was like okay, now it's useful to some extent. Third generations that you are seeing nowadays, they are like, yeah, you don't think about it. However, in some scenarios, let's say where camera manufacturers flat out open the lens mount, be it L mount alliances or Sony E mount, the lenses work flawlessly. You don't have to think about it. Like if there is a fault, there is a serious chance the fault is coming because of firmware malfunction, not because of they don't know what the hell they are trying to do. Reverse engineering is no longer an issue. So that part is also, that means third-party lenses are now a long-term solution. You can buy that, and anything that will come afterwards will be compatible. Because again, Canon is not gonna tamper with their basically communication, because if they did that, the lenses they released in previously, they will stop working with the new ones, and that simply cannot happen. If they did that, they will be destroyed. So third-party lenses are also nowadays good option. Now lenses are ludicrously long-term investment, because I can guarantee you, let's say Sony A7 Mark III, you bought it in 5 years time, 5 or 10 years time, you won't even look at it. You're like, bro, what the hell was this? This was like 2005 technology or something. Like we progressed that quickly in camera technology. However, in terms of lens, you can still use the same old lens, like I mean really old lens. Only thing you will give up is like either image stabilization and autofocus. Other than that, the optical quality will still be there. It will still be there after thousands of years. So that's the whole point. Lens matters. Then talk about Canon, because Canon recently had a very big rumor leak, and the news are kind of good because they are going all in on the R mount. Why? Again, R mount is the future. Camera companies do not like the idea of supporting multiple formats. They may show you that, but it's a very painful for them, and nobody wants to do that. So Canon is going all in. Now, what is the approach of the Canon's land macro? The approach is kind of very different. Now, when I say the modern approach, that inherently means Canon have been thinking about this quite a while long ago. So what they are trying to do is create small lenses. Now, anybody of you are in the age of, let's say, 50 to 60 years old, they know older camera lenses were not as ludicrous as the modern ones. Even I'm talking like 70 to 200 f2.8 or things of that nature. They were not huge. These two lenses, they are f4. Both of them are f4, and you can see they are more or less this, like a 20 to 30% difference, and not to mention the weight wise they are even far apart. So what happened? Digital photography happened. Because of digital photography, everybody, Tom, Dick and Harry, started to become what we call pixel people. So let's say Canon released a lens and everybody started to pixel people. They're like, dude, the corner sharpness is not the best and all that jazz. So company did what they did. They tried to address the problem, but to address the problem, the lenses started to become huge, and then the more problems started to come in, and then they started to correct it more. There is a reason why television cameras, broadcast cameras specifically, they have lenses that are like freaking box lenses, because there is an independent lens mechanism in that lens that corrects the barrel distortion and pincushion effect. Like there is a lens that will counteract that in real time. So basically what they are trying to do is bring that technology into this. That will simply not work. And not to mention, people are reaching a point where they're like, dude, lens is way too sharp. They no longer have character. They're like, just this is a box of pixel. And that's what Leica does so well, and that's why Leica's full frame lenses are not ludicrous in the size. So Canon is trying to go back to that roots again with modern technology, with modern experience, and the fact because they don't have IBIS so far, like while I'm making this video, is that all the lenses have to have image stabilization. And not to mention, even if they have IBIS for wildlife photography, they would like the idea of having dual systems. So they're going for smaller lenses, basically trying to reduce the aperture. Now you may be like, okay, isn't reducing aperture like gonna affect the quality? Short answer, yes, of course it's gonna affect it. But here's the deal: if nobody buys your lens, there is no point. If nobody uses your lens, there is no point. So they had to make that sacrifice. However, you have to understand some advantage of Canon. Like Canon is uniquely suited to this because they have only made full frame systems so far. They have the advantage of giant sensor size. That's awesome, because if you have a giant sensor, you inherently have giant benefits, and that's the sole reason why Fujifilm, even though they are like, we're not going to compete in full frame, they make medium format. There is a reason for that. Physics is there. There is a reason why we went from Hubble telescope to JW Webb telescope. You want bigger is better. No going around it. Like you have to do that. So Canon has that. It's like, bro, all we're gonna do is full frame. That's awesome. The reason for that is because Micro Four Third and APS-C, they are no longer as far ahead of mobile system, especially with mobile, with current gen technology and current gen artificial intelligence. It's creepy how close they are, especially in broad daylight. Again, in low light there is a giant difference, but in broad daylight you'll be like, dude, what the hell I'm getting? And not to mention, even mobile phones are coming with optical zooms and all that. So Canon is trying to outsmart them. So the full frame, that's the first advantage. Second, what they are creating is something that you can carry around, something that is pocket friendly, and they will utilize their biggest advantage, their reduced flange distance. Now you may be thinking like, why the heck flange distance is so important? Well, every time you basically make your aperture smaller, you lose light. Now how do you gonna gain it back? Well, if you are familiar with basically macro tubes, you know the fact that even if you add something as little as like this in front of your basically lens and sensor, it drastically makes your image looks darker because of inverse square law. Physics is ludicrously brutal on this. Basically, even shaving a few millimeters will change your light output. Now in case of basically Canon mount, they almost like literally chopped off this, so their lenses are much more brighter comparatively speaking to a full frame. That inherently gives them the advantage to truly make something that they are like, yeah, it's truly good. You don't have to think about it like, oh, it's gonna be completely black, completely ISO noise will be there. Again, the sensor is good because of the size, and the fact because of the lower flange distance, the lens is inherently brighter compared to their DSLR counterpart. So they are set. They can actually pull this off and actually release something that people could hopefully afford. So that's a Canon's what's coming down the Canon, and it should reach in the market in let's 4 months. What about Sigma? Now Sigma has changed its approach, because if you're familiar with Sigma's older lenses, they were made like, let's make it as cheaply as possible. Now again, it did work, but it was very corner cutting, cost cutting kind of measure. I have Sigma basically 17 to 55 millimeter. It's a good lens, and I have been using it for years, so to say, like 2.5, like my whole YouTube channel is built on that. Given the fact you can see 700 plus videos on my channel, you know for a fact that it does work, and it does have autofocus. But because they did corner cutting, the motor is noisy as hell. Basically, if I put my micro microphone which is here on top of the camera, yeah, all I'm gonna hear is that. So they changed their approach from that, like, barely enough quality to go YOLO in terms of quality. So they are no longer holding back, and the benefit of that, because once the engineer knows how to make something in cheap, and if you give them the budget, they can truly make something awesome still while still remaining in budget. So output is, right now you can go to a Sigma art lenses and it will genuinely be on the same level as a Canon L glass or Nikon glasses, like genuinely on the same. Now you may like, that's no, like there's Canons and Nikons, true Nikons and true Canons, they are still a bit better, but you will no longer be like, dude, I can easily tell double blind test now. You're like, yeah, there is a bit of difference, but not too much. So that truly gives them the advantage, and given the fact they still are 50% cheaper than all those companies, and their selection is complete. Now that selection is the important one, because if every lens is made in one single design philosophy, you can switch from one to another to another, and your muscle memory will remain intact. That is very critical, especially for people who do wildlife photography, and if they have to change lenses, you don't want to have a lens where it's like, okay, one lens goes only 45-degree, another lens like goes like, you don't want to do that. That's why lens generally comes into what we call a design philosophy, like this series of lenses. That's the reason for that. And the outer diameter, they will try to fix it. They will basically try to standardize as many things as possible within a single context. So that is why lineup are important, and Sigma has finally finished their lineup. So flat out right now you can go into Sigma Prime series, and there is a very good chance you will have what you want to look for. And they are not ignoring APS-C also, so they are making full frame and APS-C also, and APS-C lenses are very popular with basically streamers, as I specified. So Sigma is also doing quite well, and you can actually look into them and be like, that's an actual good long-term solution. Now let's talk about Tamron. Now Tamron is very clever, so to say, and many people say they make quite a good lens. Their lens have some sort of optical signature to them, which many people like. So what they are doing is basically Sony bought some shares with them. Depending on news sources, I'm getting 20%. So what Sony did is like, bro, this is our lens algorithm, this is how you're gonna do it. Awesome. What does that mean? That inherently, unless they mess up the firmware, everything will work flawless. Awesome. What is the consequence of that? Consequence is you cannot make a direct copy, meaning if there is 70-200 mm f2.8 lens, Tamron cannot make that. So what does Tamron do? Tamron compromises a little bit here and there. So basically 70-200 becomes 70-180 mm. That's the reason, because Sony does not allow them to create a dicto copy. However, benefit of that, they are so clever and they are experienced enough that they shave off enough weight, enough money, and because their products are genuinely different from Sony's thing, people are liking them. It's like, bro, this is genuinely light for f2.8 lens. Is genuinely light. I can genuinely enjoy that, and given the fact Sony cameras have nowadays inbuilt image stabilization, you gonna get truly good images. Now Sony's IBIS is not that great for video, however it's more than good enough for images. So Tamron is utilizing that aspect. Benefit, lenses are cheaper. Lenses are something that you can truly afford without like, what the hell, why the hell this lens is $5,000? Not single lens, but you get the point. Like basically if you want to kit out your whole system with holy trinity lenses, you're like, wow, how much money you have spent on that. So Tamron is doing something clever. Now Tamron has 17-28, 28-75, 70-180. They have the holy trinity. That's complete. And what they released very recently is 28-200 mm. Now this is a quite amazing lens, simply because it's a Tamron lens, so it's not ludicrous in the price, basically sub $1,000 lenses, and it is a very good range. Basically 28-200, it's a very good range. So like almost collapsing two of these lenses, so that's awesome. And aperture wise, it's not that bad. It's f2.8, so in wide angle it's quite awesome, to 5.6, which is not that bad, which is genuinely not that bad, because that's inherently like if you see the aperture of 70-300 at 200, it's more or less the same. So it's quite amazing. Basically this is a lens which you can say, hey, if you bought Sony, let's say Sony A7 Mark III, basically lower budget option, and you're like, hey, buy this lens, and you'll be set. Like as a starter kit, it's awesome. It's like, whoa. So I'm really happy with this. So Tamron is making some uniquely good moves, and not to mention, and because this all are done in one design philosophy, the filter threads on all of them are similar. They are same. Basically you can buy the ND filter from one, you can buy polarizer for one, and all then can be interchanged. That is priceless for people who have like multiple filters and all that. So that is why people want to buy in a product lineup, basically buy product of this lineup, so everything fits, everything is intercompatible. So Tamron is doing quite well, so to say. So this was my presentation on the upcoming lenses that are coming into the market in 2020. I hope you found this video helpful, liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I'd urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me your disappointment. Please leave a comment because I try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.